Welcome, adventurers!
Hello.
Oh yeah, Turnip's over there. I'm Goose.
I'm Turnip.
And I guess this
That's
is... Yeah, I guess this is the dev diary for Skin and Bones. Well, this is dev diary number 1. So, my main focus is, of course, the book right now. I'm working on chapter 4, but while I'm doing that, I am still trying to make gaming content for the channel and all, and do a bunch of other stuff. So with that, I am setting up the terrain right here for Skin and Bones. There we go. So, it's not an incredibly huge game. Well, especially not the first chapter. But, it takes place in a very interesting area in the Dataran world, which I'm going to try and replicate through sculpting in this little thing right here. So, I'm going to try my best. And if this doesn't work, then I can use some fancy tricks with a height map in Blender. Wish I know how to do, but I'm going to try my best to sculpt and see what I can do, because I've learned a little bit about how to do this. So, there's that. So now we have this lovely map of squares, and these squares are going to shape our topology. So, the big thing is, I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to indent the landscape, because my little boy right here is already at like ground level, which kind of works for him. Nope. I need to use the arrow keys to move around. Ugh. And I'll slow that down just a bit. But I am trying to make the terrain for the Bleeding Savannah. So I'll talk about that for a minute. Okay, so I have to map out a little bit of area for this. God, this is wonky. This is all going to be experimenting and trying stuff. But I need to... First off... Okay, no, I don't need erosion. I need... hydro erosion? Oh, wait. Yeah, that does what I need to naturally. Oh, God! Okay, that needs to not be like that. Maybe... So I want noise. That's what I want. I want to make downward noise. Excuse me, I thought you went down when I held shift. Tool strength, noise, subtract. There we go. But then I want to definitely reduce that strength again. And I want to map out a little bit of an area, because this town... Well, actually... I want the noise to be stronger. That's better. Because this is a very crackly, rockety area. The Bleeding Savannah is a bunch of plateaus. Or, it's a bunch of canyons, realistically. So right about here, I guess? Okay, and then crank that... No, that's good. So I want to map out an area. So I want to draw around the spots that have the that the town goes in. And the town is meant to be built at the top of 3 rather large... there we go. 3 rather large sections of the Bleeding Savannah, all right around here-ish. And these canyons in between were carved out by the water seeping up. So I want to actually pull some of that back up. Can I flatten now? Yeah, there we go. So I can get sharper edges, because there are some pretty hard drop-offs in the Bleeding Savannah. It's a lot of canyon land, and a lot of the life either has to learn how to hop between the canyon land, or has to figure out how to dig and burrow to get around these deep canyons, because they are rather far down and rather subtracting. Oh wait, can I make the brush tighter? There we go. Kevin's in the background just having a good old time. What if I... Okay, there we go. And then shrink the brush more. So this whole area should be getting fall off. Strengthen a little bit since it's smaller. And this is going to be a fun process of me just doing this a bunch. Yeah, that kind of looks okay. That's pretty alright for what I was going for. I want to draw out some areas. So I actually... If I crank up the noise scale, is that gonna... Kevin's having a jolly old time. And I'm having a hell of a time trying to figure out how to do this. You know what, I want to take this and flatten out more area. And I want to crank up the size and flatten. So I want to get those sharper, jagged slopes around the edges. Because, yeah, like that kind of fall off, it's a little heavy on the fall off side, but it's alright. Yeah. Because the canyons are meant to... Some of them are... Oh shit. You know what? We can actually smooth them. We can smooth that. Yeah, a nice little slope. And then let's noise the edges. So... scale down the brush size and noise up those edges.
Imposter Bruce says, what's Skin and Bones?
Skin and Bones is a resource management town building game. It's about building a bit of a fantasy town in the world of Dataran, which is kind of hard to do, especially in areas like this, because the Bleeding Savannah is such a hard environment to survive in. Oh, Kevin. Yeah, if you crank down the noise scale, it gets a lot more jagged at smaller points. But that's what I'm kind of sculpting out. I'm trying to get the general layout of this place a little bit. And this is not, like, fantastic, because I'm very new at this, but I have a good idea of what I want to do. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is taking this noise brush, give it a little bit more size, and then carving out the, like, surrounding areas of these places. So I have a map of where the town goes, and the town is composed of 3 major structures. That one that's going to go like this. Yeah, get a little bit. And this one sweeps wide, but then tapers off over here. This one's a little bit thinner and longer. And then... God, this isn't a lot of terrain. But I guess, like, the guy is that small, so that is a fair bit of space for the town. This is going to be interesting how I do this further along. But, and then the last section, yeah, I'll put, so this center area will be the township area, which is Actually, I want a nice little gap in the center right here. Jesus. Okay. There. So let's go ahead and... Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Crank down the strength. Yeah, the bigger the brush, the more oomph it has, I guess. So all this in the middle, or this little section is actually dipped down pretty low. Not that low. That's a little too low. But I'll flatten that out in a minute. Let's crank this down a little bit and get this a little bit lower. And then we will sweep out the last section right over here. That is this area. Yeah, those 3 sections. So this is the township area. And this corner... I don't know if I like that. But you know what? I don't care. I think that area is good, and the thing is, just like real city planning, when you first start like looking at how you're gonna put together a town, you can't really say, oh, we'll put this over here and we'll put that over there. You kind of start with what you have, and as you expand, you figure out where new stuff goes. So that's kind of how we're gonna city plan this place. Is we're gonna give ourselves the base that I kind of had in mind, and then from there, figure out where newer buildings or other stuff would go that would be part of the town or otherwise. So those 3 are the main center ones that I'm going to work with in the beginning. And I figure like this whole area has tons of room. So if the town needs to expand outward, you probably will have the ability to do so. So I'm actually going to take this brush now with the size that it is and carve out 2 more channels and give them some depth and all. And then I'm going to crank it down a little bit and make smaller canyons and stuff that you could probably hop over, which is the other thing. Fiara is very agile, so being the player character, when you play as her, you can probably clear quite a few gaps and all. See, and that is something like... I'll figure it out. I'll have to figure something out. We'll put some shrubbery or stuff to block the edges off to give you guys an idea of where the like borders of the world are and all. But this is actually, as much as I like don't think this is quite there yet, this kind of layout with all this madness and like crinkly shit, that's kind of what the Bleeding Savannah is. It's a bunch of flat land with a bunch of areas that have been dug down by wildlife and by the rains and the weather and the water, because the Bleeding Savannah is full of metals, metallic bits and shavings and everything in the ground and soil, which makes it pretty hard for most like plant life to grow in, and consequently hard for herbivores and wildlife to grow in. And as people know who study a little bit of biology basics, or more specifically the way environments tend to be set up, is without a good supply of herbivores at the base of your food chain, there's not a lot of bigger stuff that grows off of that. So there are very specific ways the life has adapted, because life on Dataran adapts pretty readily to this kind of stuff. Oh, that's some heavy carvage right there. And the other thing is, like, as you go along, one of the things you're going to build, of course, is bridges to connect some of these islands a little bit more. I want to do just a little, like, moon cut right there, and then make this a big dip. And I am going to put the borders a fair bit away from the edge of this map. But the thing is, so the water level is actually really deep inside the Bleeding Savannah. That's why these carvings are so low, because there is a bit of moisture. You'll see the lower parts of the Bleeding Savannah, including that pit in the middle of the town. There is water in the bottom. And that is crucial because it is nasty metal-filled waters. Aww, Kevin's being so cute. Do you hear him? Baby girl Scratchy, give him some love for that. That was adorable. That actually doesn't look bad. I mean, it looks awful to live there, but that's kind of what I had in mind. I do want to actually do some stuff. I'll show you a little thing I'm going to do in a second. Because, of course, plateaus like this and stuff, the ground's not always, like, even. It's not always flat and level everywhere. So first off, what I'm going to do, so this gives us the caverns and ravines. I'll go through and deepen some. And then take the flattener and flatten out the certain sections of the canyons and ravines where it's flat at the bottom, where those water supplies are. So I'll probably pick out some spots where I think drop-offs and canyons could go. And then I will elevate some of these to give it a little bit more height and a little bit more difference between the different areas. And actually, I'm going to size down the brush and keep the strength strong, and then just carve I want to carve some finer line channels in between this. Because the other thing is, like, when I say stuff is digging underground in the Bleeding Savannah, I'm not talking about earthworms and moles. The predatory, like, hound dogs have burrows that they dig into the sides of these to get some of the stuff that digs down there. There are digwins, which are little subterranean burbs, penguins almost, that dig down into the Bleeding Savannah, and they live here too. They are definitely going to be part of the zoo and all. They are not a very, like, ready food supply. They are also endangered, so it's more along the lines of they're going to come in a later chapter and be something you kind of protect rather than something you hunt. But one of the things is the wildlife in this place is hardy and tough, which is why it's not it's not what anybody around here would probably call a good idea to settle. So I'm gonna flatten. No. I'm gonna flatten this up to this point, this height, down through here. Which also, as I push it into these, like, higher growing spots, it sharpens those drop-offs, because that's the thing is, the Bleeding Savannah is very rigid. The life there is very rigid and sharp. The ground is very rigid and sharp. It's hard to find nice, like, soft land around the Bleeding Savannah. But this is and this is part of the reason that Fiara picked the Bleeding Savannah to, and here's another trick for you guys if you want to, like, this doesn't look great, and I'm going to actually take the smooth brush, hold shift, and do this. Is this actually working? Excuse me. Oh, wait, the smooth, duh. I need the sculpt brush. And then do, okay, hold on, I know what I gotta do. So I gotta get rid of that bump, flatten it, tone down the strength, up the size, and then shift click just to give it a little, what this is doing is giving it a little, like, yeah, see, like a little bit of downward curve. Can I, there you go, Jesus. Because this is a little pond, and that's part of the reason Fiara picked this place out, because it was located where a little, like, natural pond is, and that gives her a big advantage, especially for starting a town, because she has a water source. It's one you're going to have to purify, but it's a water source, and it works. Okay, I like how this has gotten so far. I'll deepen, yeah, I'll go ahead and deepen that one a little bit. What I'll do is I'll noise it and take the brush size way down and then crank up the strength a little bit and carve a little bit more like of a path through here. So it looks like the water has flown a little bit. I did not explain much of this at all. But I guess I could go through a quick little explanation of how I got to this point, because I didn't really talk about none of this stuff. I didn't really plan a tutorial. I was planning on just making stuff, and I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. I did not expect it to look this, like, almost this clean and everything. So I'm going to change some heights for some of the extraneous, like, outer edge areas. And the thing is, this is just the land. This is just the pure ground. This isn't even like the rocks, the magnetic groove lines that run through some of this, the archways that are formed by the magnetic stones that are in the ground. And this also is not the, this isn't all the foliage and stuff. There are plants and there are animals that live in this area. They have very unique ways of living here. So here's the trick I was talking about. So I want this this strip right here to be a little bit taller, and I want that one to be a little bit lower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this bump, switch over to my flatten, go right to the top of it, and click. And now I have a flattened area that is a little bit higher. And now I just make sure I drag it out to the edges of this little like island I have. Make sure I keep it right there, nice and tight. And the thing is, like, if I change the fallout, so I really should explain this stuff. So if we go over here, I can't show you that option. I can show you some of the brushes though. This flattening brush, you can see it pulls the land up to be flat and even on the Z or is it Z for on the up and down axis? I forget which one because I'm used to Blender. But this flattening brush, when I drag it across here, it is making all the ground, all the topology for everything I'm touching with this, even on the up and down axis, so that it's all the same height. Duh, it's flattening the land. And this gives us a good flat area. And the only reason I'm not making this topology a little bit more accurate and a little bit more like bumpy, I guess, compared to what I have right here, is mostly because I want the town to have good even footing. I want to be able to have an easier time pathing, especially. So I'm keeping the tops of these areas a little bit more flat than they probably would be in real life, or in the Dataranian world. That said, it is a lot like this. It is fairly similar to this. Are you giving me Kevin? Is Kevin going to come to Daddy? No, he's not. But yeah, so just to re-clarify, that one, this one, and this one are going to be my main three township areas, and there is going to be stuff a little bit down here and a little bit out as stuff might expand, depending on what happens and all. I actually want to do something with this edge too. I want to shift sculpt this down and then flatten it out right here at this level.
You just keep switching shoulders.
That doesn't surprise me.
Ow, ow, my ear.
Hello, Kevin. No? Do you want to put him in the cage outside?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Kevin's gonna stay with us for a little bit longer. So what I'm doing here is I flattened out a tiny area and made it a little bit lower than that ledge, and then I'm going to make the fall. I made the fall off really sharp, so it's a bit more of a like slope, and it gives it a little bit more of a smoother groove. I may actually take the smooth and I might just smooth it out a little bit. Ta-da! And that's the thing. Like this ledge, this is actually perfect. I can take this right here and flatten right from here out across this and make this whole area Oh wait, my fall off. Make this whole area nice and flat. Actually, I will give it a little fall off. Just to give it a little curve to the edges. And I know this is like... I know this is probably very janky looking topology. Or janky looking landscaping. But that's kind of what I want to represent in the Bleeding Savannah. It's not an easy place to live. Especially for sentient life. Or especially for, like, town-based life. I know I've said that like 20 times, but I want to get it across that like it's not like it's not a very thought of idea like, hey, why don't we go start a town in the Bleeding Savannah? No, people would rather start a town in the middle of like in cursed woods than live out here, because at least a curse you can deal with. You can't deal with sheer cliff faces and almost no food sources. Excuse me, flatten out. Kevin has been dropped off. Okay, so I kind of like that little steppy structure. I want to leave it. I want to leave it and then take like this and scale down the brush even further and then just kind of flatten it out a little around this part, a little higher. Just to give it some interesting topology. Do I still have my step? Yeah, I do. Yeah. Because this is a really interesting layout for stuff, and it gives me a little bit more diversity in what I do. And of course, like, the town builds up structures and builds scaffolding to build up and down into other parts of the savannah. But I think this is pretty alright for the start of it. Is it? I think so. I want to make adjust landscape vertical with the next Y offset map to invert density. You know, I'm going to try this out. I want to test this, and I can always Control Z if it messes with stuff. I don't hate the way that looks. I mean, it didn't change much, but I can definitely see it. Like, it's tweaking some of these stretched lines and all. Interesting. Okay, so, well... Yeah, and you can see how Unreal is shifting some of the topology further out to better... Okay, so I want to change the height of a few more of these little platforms.
Did you just put them in the box?
Well, he wouldn't come to me and, like, sit... Oh, wait.
It's fine, because I wasn't going to deal with it.
Well, he was just being a little...
Him.
He's just being a little...
But he started biting my ears and my moles, and I was like, oh, time to go.
I love you, baby girl. So I need to crank up the brush size and flatten this out. And I think, like, and another big thing of this especially is topologizing this and all is one thing, but when I add some of the textures that I want to, when I get some of that going, I think it's definitely going to make a noticeable difference for this landscape. Because the actual ground, the way the ground looks for the Bleeding Savannah is very... it's a very, like... What's the word for when something is, like, eye-catching but almost negative, I guess? Like it, when you see the ground in the Bleeding Savannah, you're automatically like, ooh, this doesn't look good. Or
hazardous?
If a farmer saw the ground in the Bleeding Savannah, their first thought would probably be, I ain't growing shit here. A little hazardous, I guess. I want to make this one tall. I want to make this one hella tall. The Discord stream is dead, so if you guys want to ask questions about the game, you can do it in the comments of the video, or you can watch the video and do it on the Discord. I'll definitely link it when I get this done, whenever that is. Can this work with me? Oh, wait. Oh, it was just not moving. Okay, but I want to make this... I want to make it tall. Yeah, there we go. And then flatten it out again. I can definitely see somebody watching this, as somebody who's done, like, sculpting or topology for games, and be like, this place looks like shit. And I can understand that, because it probably does to somebody whose, like, job it is to do this. But I kind of like this. And then I want to bring this up just a little bit. Flatten it out. And you know what? Yeah, I'm going to add a little, because not all of it is clean and flat. So I think in that corner, and then this one right here, I'm going to add a noise spike. I'm just going to take some noise, because right now it's set to subtract. So I'm going to add, and okay, and then right. Oh wait, it's getting closer to the camera because I'm at the angle I'm at. Right here. So I want to. Okay, you know what? I need to crank down the strength just a little bit so I have a little more control over just how wild this gets. Yeah, that's a bit better. Because not all of it is clean and flat. I am, however, going to take this and flatten this part right down to that. Wait. Yeah, that's not bad. And then make this one a little lower. Yeah, look at that. This is shaping up pretty nicely. And then I'll do the same thing over here. Noise, and then spike it right there. And I'm gonna add, like, this is definitely base, because I'll add some boulders and rocks and everything to the structures, make it a little bit more interesting to look at visually. And then flatten this spot. And I like that one just like it is. I mean, that's not a bad little bit of terrain. I definitely think this area... You know what? I'm going to add a canyon. Was this where... Yeah. You know what? I know what I'm going to do. I have flattened, so I'm going to... Right there. Yeah. We're going to tear ourselves out a chunk of this boy. And then we'll add... some noise, just a bit of noise to the bottom to give it some texture. Yeah, like, yeah, that's nice. And then like that. And then on this side where stuff is. Yeah. And this will be an area where I put a water, like the water level will be in the bottom. The water's going to be the same level for most of this place, but that's going to be the area in the bottom. So I'm going to save this right now, rebuild lighting, and I'll run around it for a minute. And I'll cut this off here, just for, like, this was the basic sculpting. Oh god, what's gone wrong? Oh, duh, light errors. Yeah, I know it needs rebuilt. I'm rebuilding! But I'll let the light rebuild. I'll walk around it for a minute and see how it feels. See if it feels from the first-person character's... from the third-person character's perspective, if it feels like enough space. And then probably, not right now, but when I get to it a little bit, I'll attempt to make the materials to paint onto the surfaces of these, as well as so I'm gonna carve that down a little bit. Nope, I'm leaving it. I'm gonna leave it as is and call this good for now. And if you have suggestions for certain areas you see that maybe you want to change, or maybe you have ideas for like, oh, this should have a rock here, this should have a thing here. And there are, like I said, oh, the magnetic rocks, the magnetic mountains and stuff. Oh, yes. Magnesis stones. But we'll get to that as I do like foliage and a little bit. Is it called foliage? Yeah, I'll get to the foliage and the regular life of the area. Please add a tightly bound light mass importance volume to optimize your scene's quality and light building times. I am not going to mess with the light building yet because I am watching a couple tutorials to help shape this all out. There's a divot. It's not a bad divot. And automatic. So I know we have, of course, the structure right there. But painting. Do I have any? I don't think I've gotten to that yet. Oh wait, I know what this is for. Never mind. Yeah, we are gonna just leave that here for now. But the terrain is done for the most part. Honestly, it feels really good just to walk around this and see it like this. Okay, hold up. Yeah, and you can see I'm definitely going to be changing some of the qualities of how the character moves around this landscape, because like I said, Fiara is very mobile. Can I get out of this now? Okay, there. You. I want to change your... jump height. Jumping, jump velocity. We're going to change this from 600 to 1800. So he, hopefully, if this goes right, he will have, yeah, there we go. 3 times the jump velocity. That's not going to be accurate for Fiara because she's not that agile, but this will help me get around the map a little bit. I really do enjoy the look of this. And the jagged, like, the really sharp edges don't look amazing, but I can't expect perfection, and this is really nice compared to what I was expecting. And I have an idea for how some of the textures are going to help shape this out a little bit. So the big concept for this is, of course you have your, oh god, I'm not going to make it.
Rest in peace.
I guess I died. I'll definitely have to tweak some of that a little further along and all. But I like how this landscape turned out. I definitely want to do some paint work with it, and then some foliage work. And after setting up the basic landscape, I'm going to work on making our player character. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. Farewell, adventurers, and
Bye.
I'll see you guys in the next one.